Princess Diana consulted astrologers for nearly a decade. They guided her decisions, predicted her future, claimed to see her destiny in the stars. And not one of them saw August 31st, 1997 coming. Debbie Frank was Diana's personal astrologer from 1989 until her death. She wrote about their sessions. Simone Simmons was her energy healer. They spoke almost daily toward the end. Rita Rogers was her psychic. Diana surrounded herself with spiritual advisors who claimed to see what others couldn't. These weren't random fortune tellers. These were women Diana trusted with her deepest secrets. So why did every prediction fail? Why did the charts miss the most important moment in Diana's life? Today we're diving into the documented history of Diana's astrological consultations, examining what her advisors actually predicted, and asking a question nobody wants to answer. Were the stars wrong, or were the readers? The answer might not be what you expect. Number 1, the prophecy problem. The world was shocked on August 31st, 1997. But where were the seers? For years, Diana's astrologers had painted a picture of her future: power, influence, a long life filled with purpose. Debbie Frank spoke about Diana's chart, showing someone who had decades of impact ahead of her, someone who would continue to evolve and grow. They predicted Diana would continue her humanitarian work and expand her influence globally. She'd find love again, real love this time, with someone who truly appreciated her. She'd see her sons grow up, get married, have children of their own. Some even suggested she'd remarry, perhaps to someone outside the establishment who valued her for who she truly was. What none of them predicted: that she had less than a decade left after their sessions began, that she'd never see William become a man, that she'd never hold her grandchildren, that her story would end in a Paris tunnel at 36 years old. That's the question at the heart of all this. How did women who claimed to see Diana's destiny miss the single most defining moment of it? Number 2, the spiritual inner circle. Diana didn't just dabble in astrology. She built an entire network of spiritual advisors who became some of her closest confidants, people she trusted more than many members of her own family. Debbie Frank entered Diana's life in February 1989. A mutual friend made the introduction, telling Frank that Diana really needs someone who is more empathic. For nearly 8 years after that first meeting, Frank was Diana's primary astrologer. Regular sessions at Kensington Palace, phone calls before major decisions. Diana would consult her about timing, about energy, about what the universe was telling her. Frank later described how Diana immediately let me into her confidence and told me what it was really like inside the royal family. She was shocked by the contrast between the public image and private reality. Diana trusted her completely. Then there was Simone Simmons, an energy healer who became one of Diana's closest friends during the final years of her life. They spoke almost daily. Diana confided secrets to Simmons that she told virtually no one else. When Diana said, "If anything happens to me, write a book and tell it like it is," it was Simmons she was speaking to. And Rita Rogers, a psychic from Derbyshire, who Diana consulted for the last 4 years of her life. Diana visited her home multiple times, and they spoke on the phone at least once a week. Rogers called herself a mother figure to Diana. These 3 women knew Diana better than almost anyone. They had access to her fears, her hopes, her birth chart, her most vulnerable moments. If anyone should have seen danger coming, it was them. Number 3, the depth of trust. These weren't casual consultations. Diana made actual decisions based on what these women told her. She believed they could see things others couldn't. She'd call Debbie Frank before important events, asking about timing, about planetary alignments, about when to act and when to wait. Frank has spoken about how she became Diana's emotional touchstone during those turbulent years of divorce and reinvention. The astrology sessions weren't just about predictions. They were therapy sessions, strategy meetings, and spiritual guidance all wrapped into one. Diana brought these advisors into her most intimate struggles, her marriage problems, her fears about the future, her hopes for love and happiness. And that's what makes the failure so haunting. These weren't strangers making predictions from afar. These were women who knew Diana personally, who had access to her birth time, her history, her deepest fears. If anyone should have seen danger coming, it was them. Number 4. Diana's birth chart. Let's look at what the stars actually revealed. Diana's birth data is publicly available. July 1st, 1961, 7:45 p.m. Sandringham, England. The time was confirmed through official channels. A letter from the Queen's Assistant Press Secretary to astrologer Charles Harvey confirmed it came from Diana's mother. This is the chart Debbie Frank used throughout their years of sessions together. Sun in Cancer, Moon in Aquarius, Sagittarius rising. Every astrologer can cast this chart, and over the decades, thousands have. They've found explanations for her compassion, that Cancer sun giving her nurturing instincts, her rebellious streak, that Aquarius moon making her a humanitarian who connected with outsiders, her need for emotional connection, her drive to help others. The chart shows a woman of contradictions: sensitive Cancer seeking security, independent Aquarius needing freedom, adventurous Sagittarius rising, wanting to explore the world and experience everything it had to offer. Astrologers have analyzed every aspect of this chart. They've explained her fashion sense, her charity work, her difficult relationships, her emotional volatility. The Venus-Uranus square that allegedly showed her romantic instability. The moon opposition that supposedly explained her mood swings. What they couldn't explain, at least not beforehand, was August 31st, 1997. All those years of readings, all those hours spent analyzing her planetary positions, all those confident predictions about decades of influence and impact, and nobody saw the Paris tunnel. Nobody saw the Mercedes. Nobody saw 36 being the end instead of the beginning. Number 5. Retrofitting the disaster. After Diana's death, some astrologers went back to the charts. They claimed to find warning signs they'd missed. Difficult transits in August 1997. Challenging aspects involving Mars and Pluto. The 8th house, traditionally associated with death and transformation, allegedly showing activation. Solar eclipses in her chart that supposedly signaled danger. But here's the problem. These warnings were identified after the fact. It's called retrofitting, looking back at data and finding patterns that confirm what you already know happened. It's one of the oldest criticisms of astrology. When you know the outcome, you can almost always find something in the chart that explains it. Different astrological systems tell different stories. Western astrology, Vedic astrology, Chinese astrology. They all analyzed Diana's chart after her death. Some found danger signs they claimed were obvious in retrospect. Others found nothing particularly unusual about that August. The interpretations varied wildly depending on who was doing the reading and what system they used. Number 6. The silence before the storm. So were the warning signs actually there? Or did astrologers simply find what they were looking for once they knew how the story ended? Consider this. In the months and years before Diana's death, numerous astrologers published predictions about her future. Magazine columns, books, media appearances. Not one of them, not a single documented public prediction, warned of tragedy in August 1997. Instead, they predicted continued influence, growing power, future love, lasting impact. Even Diana's own personal advisors, the women who had direct access to her chart and knew her intimately, focused their predictions on positive outcomes, on the bright future ahead. Rita Rogers later claimed she'd warned Dodi Fayed about avoiding France and about the danger of tunnels. But these claims surfaced only after the accident. And notably, Rogers herself has said she couldn't understand why she didn't see that Diana would be involved in the same accident. Before August 31st? Nothing. Complete silence. Number 7. The human element. Think about this for a moment. When you're reading charts for the most famous woman in the world, someone who's already anxious, already scared, already battling so much, do you tell her the worst? Think about the position these advisors were in. Diana was struggling with her divorce from Charles. fighting for her place in a world that seemed determined to diminish her, battling depression and bulimia, dealing with relentless media intrusion. If you saw something troubling in her chart, would you share it directly? Or would you focus on the positive? Give her hope instead of fear. Help her through another difficult day rather than adding to her anxiety? Former royal insiders have suggested that Diana's advisors sometimes told her what she needed to hear. Not lies exactly, but selective truth. Emphasizing the good transits, downplaying the difficult ones, giving a princess who was already suffering some comfort and hope. I'm not saying they were wrong to do that, but it might explain why every reading pointed toward a bright future. Number 8, the celebrity bias. There's also something called the celebrity factor in readings. Astrologers who read for famous clients often have a psychological bias. They want to see greatness, not tragedy. Diana was the people's princess. Surely her chart reflected that magnificence. Surely her future was as bright as her presence. When you're sitting across from one of the most beloved women on the planet, telling her about her cosmic destiny, there's an unconscious pull toward grand narratives, toward continued influence, toward the story everyone wants to believe. Wishful thinking isn't intentional deception, but it might explain why every reading focused on Diana's continued rise, her influence, her love life, her lasting impact, rather than the possibility that her time was running out. The charts might have shown warnings, but the readers may not have wanted to see them. It's human nature. We see what we want to see. And when you're looking at the chart of someone you admire, someone the whole world loves, someone who seems destined for greatness, the mind naturally gravitates toward the grand narrative, the story of triumph, not tragedy. Number 9, the comfort problem. Diana sought out these advisors partly for guidance, but she also sought them for comfort. Debbie Frank has spoken about how their sessions weren't just astrological consultations. They were opportunities for Diana to process her feelings, to feel heard, to find hope. The astrology was a framework, but the relationship was therapeutic. Would Frank have maintained that healing relationship if she'd constantly warned Diana about potential dangers? Would Diana have continued calling if every session left her more frightened than before? That closeness probably shaped what they told her. These women weren't just Diana's advisors. They were her friends, her confidants, her emotional support system. That bond might have been exactly what prevented them from delivering hard truths. Number 10, the limits of prediction. Maybe there's another possibility nobody wants to discuss. What if some events simply can't be foreseen by any method, any system, any reader? Free will, random chance, the chaotic intersection of a driver's decisions, a tunnel's design, paparazzi pursuit, and a moment that changed history. The universe isn't always predictable. Not everything is written in the stars. Diana's death involved dozens of variables that no chart could have captured. Henri Paul's blood alcohol level that night, the decision to leave from the back entrance of the Ritz, the specific route through Paris, the speed of the Mercedes, the column in the Pont de l'Alma tunnel. Even if the charts showed danger in general terms, could they really have predicted this specific sequence of events? This exact night? This precise outcome? Some things might just be beyond the reach of any system, beyond astrology, beyond psychic ability, beyond any human attempt to see what's coming. The universe has always kept some secrets for itself. Number 11, the final summer. In her final summer, Diana found happiness. She was in love with Dodi Fayed. She'd just returned from a successful landmine campaign in Bosnia. She felt free for the first time in years. And during that summer, every reading pointed toward a bright future. Rita Rogers had predicted Diana would meet a man of foreign descent with the initial D on water, and that the man would be connected with the film industry. When Diana called to tell her she was on a yacht with someone named Dodi Fayed, the prediction seemed confirmed. Rogers was thrilled. So was Diana. The readings were working. The guidance was accurate. The future looked promising. Diana and Dodi visited Rita Rogers together on August 12th, 1997. just 19 days before the crash. They flew by helicopter from London to her home in the small Derbyshire village of Grassmore. The arrival caused quite a stir. A Harrods helicopter landing in a field next to the psychic's Victorian house wasn't something the village saw every day. Doty wanted to meet the woman whose predictions had proven so accurate. He was fascinated, impressed. He wanted his own reading. The session lasted about 90 minutes. When they left, both Diana and Doty seemed happy, confident about what lay ahead. 19 days later, both of them were dead. That 90-minute session was the last time Diana would sit with a spiritual advisor, the last reading she would ever receive, and it told her nothing but good news, nothing but hope, nothing but a future that would never arrive. Number 12, the unanswerable question. We're left with questions that have no satisfying answers. Did the astrologers fail Diana? Did they miss clear signs in her chart that tragedy was coming? Or were they simply doing what any compassionate advisor would do, offering hope to a woman who desperately needed it? Did the stars actually contain warnings that readers chose not to share? Or does the very nature of prediction face limits when confronting events nobody could predict? Rita Rogers claims she warned Doty about France and tunnels, but she also admits she didn't see that Diana would be in the same accident. What kind of warning is incomplete like that? Debbie Frank spent 8 years reading Diana's chart. She became one of her closest confidants. If the danger was written in the stars, why didn't she see it? Number 13, what believers must face. For believers, Diana's case presents a genuine paradox. Here was a woman who embraced spiritual guidance completely. She didn't just dabble, she committed. Multiple advisors, regular consultations, decisions made based on what the charts revealed. If astrology works, Diana should have been protected by her faith in it. Her advisors should have seen something. Someone should have warned her. The fact that nobody did forces believers to consider possibilities they might prefer to avoid, that even genuine spiritual gifts have limits, that human bias affects interpretation, that some futures simply can't be seen, or perhaps that astrology itself is something other than what its practitioners claim. Number 14, the mystery remains. Almost 30 years later, we're still trying to understand why prophecy failed the People's Princess. What we know for certain is this: Diana trusted these advisors. She made decisions based on their guidance. She found comfort in believing the universe had a plan for her. And in her final summer, as she found happiness with Doty Fayed, every reading pointed toward a bright future. Continued influence, lasting love, a life of purpose and meaning stretching out ahead. The stars promised one thing, reality delivered another. For Diana's advisors, that failure must have been devastating in its own way. They'd spent years building relationships with her, years believing they could help guide her path, years thinking they had insight into what was coming, and then the worst possible thing happened, and none of them saw it. Maybe there's no single answer. Maybe the truth is all of these things at once. Flawed interpretation, human bias, the limits of any predictive art, and the fundamental unpredictability of a chaotic universe. Number 15, beyond the stars. Or maybe, and this is the possibility that haunts believers most, some moments simply exist beyond prediction, beyond charts, beyond cards, beyond the stars themselves. Diana surrounded herself with seers, astrologers, psychics, energy healers, women who claimed to read her destiny in the cosmos, and not one of them saw August 31st, 1997. The universe kept it secret. The stars refused to speak, and Diana drove into that Paris tunnel believing her future was bright. Maybe that belief, that hope, was worth more than a warning would have been. Maybe her final summer of happiness unclouded by dread was a gift. Maybe some things aren't meant to be known. And maybe, just maybe, Diana's last summer of joy was better spent in hope than in fear. Was it flawed interpretation, human bias, the limits of any predictive art? or proof that some moments exist beyond prediction, beyond charts, beyond cards, beyond the stars themselves. I don't have the answer. I'm not sure anyone does, but I want to know what you think. Did the astrologers fail Diana? Or is there something about her fate that simply couldn't be foreseen? Drop your theories in the comments. And if you want to hear what Debbie Frank actually predicted for Diana's future, what she claimed to see in those private sessions, we covered that in another video. Link in the description. Subscribe if you're new. We explore the mysteries others won't touch.